guys, Anxious Girly here, back with another episode. Today I want to talk about a recent experience I've had when asking for mental health support. To be clear, not to blame anyone, but to talk about how it feels to leave an important appointment feeling unheard and quite alone. So let's get into it. What actually happened? Any of you who have watched TikTok videos or even listened to previous podcasts would know that a couple of weeks ago I suffered to the point where I had my own mental health crisis. Now since then I have attended multiple GP appointments and I was referred to a psychiatrist, which I was over the moon about. Upon entering the room, I had my mum come with me for support because she's been my rock. We sat down and I was visibly nervous, very anxious, which under the circumstances I think anybody would be. And the doctor asked me what my everyday symptoms were and what I was struggling with. And prior to this appointment, I had made a list on my phone, just reminding me of everything that I should be mentioning. I'd been through this with my doctor because I'm well aware that I can mask certain things, and especially when I'm feeling uncomfortable, I tend to just say, I'm fine, because the uncomfortableness within me won't allow me to stay there. Like, I need to just get out. My whole body is just screaming, let's just get this over and done with. Because a lot of the times I feel like a burden. Upon showing the doctor this list, immediately he dismissed it. He said, no, I want to hear it from you. And at this point I was struggling. You could see, as a professional, you could see. And I said, please, can you read it? His response was, it's too small for me. I want to hear you read it. So straight away that got my back up. I felt dismissed entirely. Just from that alone, I did not actually mention probably half of the symptoms that me and the doctor had discussed previously, just because of how uncomfortable I felt. Then came generic questions about my childhood and my education, which completely fine, normal. Bearing in mind that the last time I was in education was probably over 10 years ago. And that's just me rounding it off. I told him that I'd gone to university and he asked what subjects I studied in college and uni. I told him music. He asked me if I played an instrument. I said no, I was a singer. I used to sing and I don't anymore. He said, why didn't you pursue it? And I said, I had quite a lot of stage fright. And my confidence wasn't really there, and quite frankly I just lost interest. He said to me, when's the last time you sang? My response, yeah, because I genuinely just assume everyone sings around the house. I said, well, probably yesterday, probably this morning. Pete, that's just genuinely what people do, you know. You'll catch me singing a Sleep Token song, Beyonce, you know, one day I might be Whitney Houston. He said, keep at that because the musical interests you have are going to help. He went into scientific reasoning as to what music does to the brain. By this point he'd lost me. I was gone. At this point I kind of realised that he wasn't really listening to me. He looked at my file. He must have noticed that my doctors have put me forward for an ADHD assessment. And the most ludicrous thing came out of his mouth. Oh, I wouldn't worry too much because people in their 20s and 30s, they usually grow out of ADHD. What? I looked at my mum and I could see my mum was quite uncomfortable. And I just said to her, we need to leave now. This man is not listening to me. He then got very defensive. What do you mean I'm not listening to you? I said, doctor, I don't think a lot of the things you have said to me today are correct. I think that you've been quite patronising. You don't make me feel safe. I don't feel validated in my own struggles. He ruled out a lot of major concerns that I had, which was brilliant. He also then went on to suggest he wasn't qualified to make any comments about ADHD and the assessment, as they have their own process and department. You probably shouldn't be reeling off those facts then. By this time, I had had enough, because there were some other comments made that just were factually untrue. One of them being that depression goes away, you just need to find the right dosage of antidepressants. It's about trial and error with medication. He asked me if I had tried to harm myself, and instantly I knew he hadn't read my file, which I found quite unprofessional. I was in crisis. His immediate response was, "Have you tried to harm yourself?" Maybe subconsciously I slipped into a different language. So again, I reiterated myself. This time a little bit more bluntly, if you catch my meaning. His response was to look me dead in the eye and say, "Don't harm yourself, Modesty. Just don't do that. Because if you harm yourself, you will get stuck in a vicious cycle. It will be relieving at first, but it's also addictive. Are you finished?" But then it all just went downhill. I asked him if it was normal for people to have overreactive brains, as in daydreaming, fantasizing. He told me, yeah, that's normal. It's completely normal. I said, but I've been doing this since a very young age. I've only just realised now that it's been my kind of coping mechanism, if you will. And I explained to him how I have been, in my own time, writing a fictional novel with the world that I've created in my head. I guess the way I cope with the thoughts and the way my brain works is to do something creative, which for me is just writing. And I proceeded to try and show him, you know, not to be like, oh, look at this, but just to show him the absolute effort and the amount of work I had created in, let's say, 4 weeks, 5 weeks, which is astonishing, believe me, the amount I've done, but it saved me. His response was, "Have you ever read Alice in Wonderland?" I wasn't quite sure where this was going. I said, I haven't read it, but everyone knows of Alice in Wonderland. And he said something along the lines of, like, even now, I think my brain was so mad, I can't quite recall what he said precisely, but he said something along the lines of that author too put their madness into writing and they made a lot of money from it. It's absolutely normal. Most people do this and they become very rich. At this point, that was it. A part of me knew, like I knew that this, I don't know whether it's because, you know, he was an older gentleman and maybe things were different back in his day. You know, maybe this was just a lack of education. But for a professional to treat me the way they did, it's not okay. Because we're taught growing up that doctors, nurses, and people in such high positions are always correct. Of course they are. Look at how many years they've spent training. You know, look at the level of education these people have. Of course they have authority. But in my case, they were wrong. And dangerously so. Because when I spoke to my own GP again, even they were gobsmacked. I have a dear friend of mine who, she lost her partner to suicide. And this man screamed for help. And he was dismissed at every turn. And he is no longer with us. I'm not going to sit here and blame the system. I do certainly think that they played a very big role in it. And now that I'm needing that support myself, I am seeing where the failures lie. And it's scary. It made me question whether I was truly entitled to support. It made me feel as if I was the problem. And that's something that is inherently ingrained in me anyway. Oh, you're the problem. And it just reinforced that for me, which sent me into a little bit of a black hole. It almost seemed to me that because I was trying and I was sitting in front of him visibly okay and outright saying, I want to get help, you know, it seemed to me that he just struck me off as, she's okay, she's fine. Now I don't know what the medical procedures are for something like that, and I get it, it's difficult to help somebody who is suffering mentally. But when somebody in authority doesn't take you seriously, you don't just doubt them and their capacity to help you, you start doubting yourself. Like I said, I came out of there and I thought, I'm mad. Now I am seriously lucky in the sense that I have a wonderful support network around me. I have some of the greatest friends that have truly stepped up for me. My family are chef's kiss. And I have got to say, there have been some doctors I have spoken to and had appointments with who have been nothing but angels, and I mean that. So not all is bad. Being validated by my GP after that consultation was just a huge relief for me, to the point where they now want a second opinion. But not everybody is so lucky, and not everybody has the strength to fight for themselves. Several things I've taken away from this, and that's one, professional's response. It's not a declaration of your worth. If you know there's something wrong within yourself, you have to fight for that. You have to fight for it to be seen, for it to be validated, and to get the support that you're entitled to. Don't just be dismissed. Get that second opinion. Not being believed does not mean you're not struggling. And outside of professionals, if there are people out there in your lives, family members, friends, acquaintances, colleagues, that don't believe what you're going through or just tell you to suck it up, then you need to tell those people where the door is. But more importantly is this: the system absolutely can miss people. And that does not mean for a second that they are broken. The system isn't perfect. Humans aren't perfect, and we all make mistakes. But it's up to us to advocate for ourselves and fight the good fight. If you have ever asked for help and it's left you feeling small, your experience is real and you are not alone in it. You're allowed to keep seeking support even if one door didn't open the way you thought it might. Keep asking questions, do your own research, and keep advocating for yourself. It's your body, it's your mind. You have to live there, no one else does. And as always, guys, I have been the Anxious Girly. Have a great week. Bye.